logic is thrown out of the door, and for what, I'm still trying to figure it out. And
Mhm.
for us, it is detrimental to rebranding the city, to reimagining the region. Hey, Josh, we're in the poorest region in the entire state. So, and we're one of the poorest states in the country. So
Mhm.
we're the poor of the poor when you look at central Alabama. We don't have what Birmingham area has with UAB, the I-20 corridor and University of Alabama kind of holding it down. You don't have the federal infrastructure that's been going on for most of my lifetime, if not more, in Huntsville that's manifesting itself now. And obviously we don't have the port that Mobile has. So for us, we're trying to, make our way to automotive manufacturing. We're trying to push that and kind of change the dynamics with our colleges and universities and a knowledge-based economy. But I don't know what it is by some people you would think would want to see us succeed, that want to see us fail, would hope to see us fail, and I dare say maybe are praying to see us fail.
Alrighty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Moon, David Person, and we are happy, as always, to have with us the Mayor of Montgomery, Steven Reed. Mayor, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, guys. How about yourself?
Oh, not bad.
Well,
Not too
Doing
bad.
good.
I say I'm doing well. I'm rocking my
Uh,
Vandy black and gold here, and my bracket just doesn't look, the way I thought it would look going into the Sweet
Uh,
16. But
yeah.
you got to stay true
uh-huh.
to your alma mater. So
Yeah,
Listen,
there
we're
you
gonna
go.
have
hey,
to work on that a little bit.
I
There you go.
watched that. I watched that actually in a hotel room in your city on Saturday evening. We were down for the banana ball stuff that was taking place in the city. We had a great time, and
Yeah, that was
we were
fun, man.
yeah had a really good time. Didn't get any help whatsoever in the pretzel line that I was in.
Well, I tried to like kind of help you, but listen, you don't mess with those old ladies. I'm not gonna take them on. I'm certainly not gonna take them on for you. So I did the best I could there, Josh. That's about all I can do.
Well, listen, it was fun. The place was packed out.
Yeah.
We had a really good time. Stayed downtown at the Trilogy, fantastic hotel, and we really had a really good time just walking around, hanging out. My daughter had a great time, and so
Oh,
it
that's
was
great.
it was a lot of fun. But yeah, man, watch Vandy, that last shot. Oh my God! I mean, because I had them going into the Elite Eight myself, and so
Okay, so I wasn't too far off then.
yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, what I know. I mean, you see my predictions. What the hell? When do I ever get anything right? Come on, so
Hey,
yeah.
that's
But
all of
listen,
us.
I did want to bring up one thing with you.
Yeah.
So I posted this on Facebook as we were there. We walked around and we had a great time. Little did we know we were in a war zone. We had no idea that we had entered a war zone when we got to the city of Montgomery, to
Yeah.
listen to some state.
Tehran, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was the same old Montgomery that I lived in for years.
Yeah.
And it's the same Montgomery that's, they, like every city, has had problems, has had some issues pop up. But I don't understand this need that certain people have, especially really kills me are the people like, let's say, Will Barfoot, some other folks in the city who
Yeah.
are representatives of that city. This need that they seem to have to just dump on the city constantly. And it seems, if you're legitimately, from my perspective, and then I'll get yours, my perspective, if you're legitimately wanting to make this city a better city, it doesn't seem like dumping on it constantly. I mean, pointing out the flaws is fine. No, I mean, I point out flaws all the time, and that's one thing. But being constructive with it, you would think, would be the first priority of a representative of that city. And it just seems like they're going the other way, and it's creating this negative trend that's gonna hurt more than help.
No, I agree with you, Josh, and I've had a lot of offline conversations with community leaders and business leaders and stakeholders here. And I'm like, we learned we were told a long time ago, hey, you don't air your dirty laundry.
Mm.
And again, in today's social media, I don't care if it's Nashville, Tennessee, I don't care if it's Plano, Texas, I don't care, Alexandria, Virginia, I don't care where you are. You got the negative Nancy's and the Debbie Downers everywhere, right? So you get the Facebook page, the next door stuff, and okay, we that's going to happen. But I think what's kind of disturbing about Montgomery is that we've actually been winning. You know,
Mm,
we're like the Vanderbilt Commodores. Hey, we're not used to winning football games. We're not used to basketball seasons like we're having, but you enjoy the ride, you know, while you have it.
right.
We're not one of those blue blood perennial, you know, winners. And in Montgomery, it seems like there are people who are hell bent on telling people we're not winning.
Mm,
You know, screw the economic development numbers, screw the gains in education you're making. Who cares about how many homes you're building in the city? Let's focus on the crime blotter, you know, and what took place, and let's magnify it. And let's, oh, by the way, let's say that Stephen Reed and Cash Patel are in cahoots because we know that the FBI statistics that he's quoting are just, you know, damn lies and damn statistics, as they
yeah.
say, right?
Mm.
So, you know, I mean, logic is thrown out of the door, and for what, I'm still trying to figure it out. And
Hmm.
for us, it is detrimental to rebranding the city, to reimagining the region. Hey, Josh, we're in the poorest region in the entire state. So, and we're one of the poorest states in the country. So
Hmm.
we're the poor of the poor when you look at central Alabama. We don't have what Birmingham area has with UAB, you know, the I-20 corridor and University of Alabama kind of holding it down. You don't have the federal infrastructure that's been going on for most of my lifetime, if not more, in Huntsville that's manifesting itself now. And obviously, we don't have the port that, you know, that Mobile has. So for us, you know, we're trying to, you know, make our way through automotive manufacturing. You know, that got started, of course, under Jim Folsom in the 90s. It was brought here under Don Siegelman and Bobby Bright and those guys with Hyundai. And so, you know, we're trying to push that and kind of change the dynamics with our colleges and universities and a knowledge-based economy. But you know, I don't know what it is by some people you would think would want to see us succeed, that want to see us fail, would hope to see us fail, and I dare say maybe are praying to see us fail.
Yeah.
And that's a disturbing piece when it comes to the narrative that's being pushed out there by some. So we're constantly working to push back. We're glad that, you know, Banana Ball was here Saturday. It was a lot of fun for me, way more fun than watching on TV. I
Right.
had no idea.
Yeah. Right.
Um, and so when we get people like yourself or your family and a lot of other people that I met there who don't live in Montgomery say, hey, man, we're having a great time. We're going to come back. That is positive progress for us. But it is a problem when those that should be leading and elevating the positive message seem to be doing things to undermine it, or maybe they're trying to do things, Josh, to undermine me
Yeah.
and our leadership and what that stands for. So
Yeah.
maybe there's that angle to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I've said it to many people before that it's now become you know, a political win for certain folks in our legislature and in our state leadership and folks who would like to be in our state leadership to vilify certain people. It's weird that, you know, when you say Stephen Reed as the mayor and vilifying Randall Woodfin as a mayor, and I don't I mean, I don't know what you guys might have in common, but
Yeah, just a
you know,
couple.
it's, you know, whatever it might be. I don't know. You know, it's just could be
Maybe
anything.
wear the same color suits.
That's probably what it is. It's probably what it is. Probably what it is. You know, but
Same
also,
color shirt, same color
yeah,
tie. Yeah.
yeah, I would
yeah.
point out that there's some culpability among some of these state leaders as well in what's taking place. And you wrote about this in a Substack that you submit every. I don't know how often you do that, but it was a very well written piece. I liked it a lot. It was about the gun laws and about how our change of gun laws and our access to weapons under this, you know, the love of guns that we have. So we love them so much that we apparently love them more than our children. And you know, those things and the unwillingness to push back at all from some of these folks on you know, just the influx of weapons and the ease of which, I mean, so many young kids with very little means are able to get their hands on firearms that I mean, stuff like you see in a war zone, literally. I mean, you could, I mean, these are weapons of war that people are using. You know, what could be done better, and what do y'all need help with at the city level from our state leaders?
Yeah, I think it's important to highlight that that Alabama is one of the 5 deadliest states per capita in this country when it comes to gun violence. And
Mm,
so again, when people are pointing out the plank in my eye, it might behoove them to look at the speck that's in there.
mhm,
I think for us, it's one of those things where you have to look at statewide and acknowledge that we have a gun problem in the state and the state could be helpful. They disarmed over the objections of law enforcement. Back to blue, last I checked, they didn't listen to the blue when it came time for the permitless carry a few years ago.
Yep.
And those were the sheriff's departments, and those were the district attorneys and the police chiefs association, and everybody who told them about this permitless carry and taking away that tool out of the toolbox to get guns off the street and put people behind bars. And sometimes I tell my progressive friends that southern states and Midwestern states could be won if they just worked at them a little bit more. And what I mean by that is, I don't think the majority of Alabamians know that the Sheriff's Association and everybody was against that. I don't believe
Yeah.
voters know these things, but we don't have the advocacy groups here to kind of tell them and the support here to kind of penetrate the algorithms on social media and everywhere else to let them know what's happening in our state out. So you have bad bills that have been introduced that have been supported because the gun lobby is pushing it maybe for their bottom line, maybe for some other reason that exists as well. And what state leaders should do and could do is pass bills like I've talked about that does focus on cities like Montgomery and Birmingham and essentially allows us to bring a permitless carry back to local control. We always talk about home rule. We always talk about, things being done at the local level, not having big government, swoop in and tell us exactly what to do. But in this case, we don't want that. And what the legislature should do in these next 6 days is pass our bill and let people know that, you know what, hey, maybe that is a bridge too far in what we did. No shame in acknowledging, mistake here. But at the same time, you can also say, look, we understand that hunters in Monroe County are different than people who are walking into a Publix or Aldi in Montgomery County. And we don't want those people having the same access to guns, given that we know what's been happening here when people have disagreements and they can't de escalate the situation. They resort to a gun. We have a shooting that costs our hospital healthcare system hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then we have something opposite may cost even more, which is the loss of life. So that to me is what our legislature and state leaders could be doing and should be doing these remaining 6 days in this session.
Mr. Mayor, context matters. And what I often note is that, first of all, there doesn't seem to be a lot of effort being given to contextualizing what has happened over time with Montgomery. What happened during previous mayors' tenures. Let's put it all. Let's look at it sort of in a comprehensive way instead of just taking a snapshot here, a snapshot there. The other thing is another part of this whole idea of looking at things contextually is, I think, looking at things comparatively. So where,
Yeah.
if we're gonna scrutinize Montgomery, we've got three other major cities in the state. What's, comparatively speaking, in the areas that people think are problematic, what's happening in Huntsville, where I live? What's happening in Birmingham? What's happening in Mobile? And let's evaluate, comparatively. I mean, does that seem, is what I'm suggesting, does that seem to be a fair and
Yeah.
logical approach to you?
Oh, 100%. I think it's one of those things that um, sounds too much like right, which is why I was smiling and you were talking about it. People aren't in the context these days. They're in the sound clips and shorts and things along those lines. And that takes too much work. And that unfortunately doesn't prove the narrative that some want to float out there when you start bringing in all these comparisons. Well, Mayor, You're short police. Well, the state law enforcement agencies also short police. As a matter of fact, they're more short state troopers than we are police. But you don't
Hmm.
see that. You don't see legislation in the Senate, for that, right? Well, why can't we
Hmm.
hire more state troopers? You know, I'd like to see more folks on the road when my family is going up and down the Alabama state highways and US highways as well. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about what we have and don't have at the state level. We focus all on the local because here's the narrative in this whole small government driven mindset is it has been the defunding of local government. It has been the defunding of district attorneys' offices and court systems to push it down to counties and systems. And this has happened over the last 10 to 15 years since I was probate judge. So people don't want to talk about what the state hasn't done and what the state's obligations are. The biggest way to do it is to, push that uh, culpability off on the local folks. And most people don't know what state government's supposed to do and they don't follow it. So they go for, the cheese, if you will. And that's how they get, baited. So for us, it seems fair to assess where we stand with other cities. I think it's fair to see where the state stands with other states. So that's what we should do. We do it in economic development. We do it in education. We do it in healthcare. We do it in job growth. Why don't we do it when it comes to public safety? Sure, we should do that. And I think the people of Alabama would be better served if we did.
Yeah. I want to shift gears for just a minute. One thing that has been in the news quite a bit just over this week, the course of this week, and really even back further, is the use of Islam as a way
Uh,
to sort of attack and divide and so forth. I wanted to get a sense, we know what's been going on with Wes Allen and John Wall, and of course Tommy Tuberville has been out there saying crazy things even before that, and bigoted things even before that. Are you getting any sense? I don't know. I don't know to what extent there are Muslims in Montgomery, but I'm sure there must be some,
yeah,
as I would assume
sure.
there are, throughout the state. And I know there certainly are here in Huntsville, a significant Muslim presence. What are you seeing there in terms of the Muslim community and how they're being impacted by this rash of Islamophobic, bigoted kind of statements and actions that are coming from our leaders, some of our leaders?
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, we're trying to do our best to wrap our arms around our Muslim community and stand in solidarity with them as we would any other group residents in Montgomery. We think that, and I personally believe that these are things that are, Nick Saban calls it rat poison. These are things that, are poisonous, to our community, to our state. We've got an image here that most state leaders over the last 50, 60 years have worked real hard to try to change from the very worst of what we saw in the uh, pre integration days of this state. We saw violent mobs. We saw riots. We saw lynchings. We saw everything. A lot of it was justified on the basis of religion. A lot of it was justified for saying how people were taught and what they believed in. And we've done a pretty good job, I think, over the last, several decades in improving that. To hear state leaders go back to kind of what is chilling to me and almost, repulsive comments, almost reminiscent for me in my lifetime of probably post 9/11, is really disturbing. It's really problematic. And so we tried to wrap our arms around the community, Muslim community here. We tried to make sure that we're doing a little bit better outreach. And we've got some other ideas that we're kicking around as well, because we think it's too important, not just for the image, but really more so for the substance of our administration of our city, not to learn the lessons of the past and to allow bigotry and to allow words of hatred against religious groups um, to go unchecked. That's a dangerous path because as Muslims today, and then on the other channel, I hear where there's anti-Semitism. Well, you can't and nor should you push out or pick on any group because of their religious
Right.
beliefs, and it's a problem. And I think it brings to the matter, the account of Dr. King. We just celebrated the 61st commemoration of the marches from Selma getting to Montgomery on that third try to commemorate the March for Voting Rights in 1965. That was just this past weekend. And Dr. King eloquently said some years before, in the end, it won't be the actions of our enemies, but it'll be the silence of our friends that we remember. And in the letter from a Birmingham
Yeah.
jail, he called on the moderate Christian, the white moderate Christian, to be honest. And it's something that everyone should read. I don't care how old you are. We had to read it in middle school and high school and college. Um, it's great literature, is well written. It probably as well written of a piece as even his "I Have a Dream" speech. But he called on those who essentially kind of blame the bombings in Birmingham on outside agitators and on those people who were pushing for equality. And I say that because this state's history is really littered with politicians of both parties playing to those extremes. And
Yep.
those things did nothing positive or very little for the people of this state and what they really needed: jobs, healthcare, education, opportunity, a better life for their kids and grandkids. It didn't help any of that. And this rhetoric that's being tossed around now doesn't help anyone whatsoever. In particular, when you consider that we're in wartime right now, and we have soldiers of all faiths who are wearing that flag across the waters, as well as here at home and abroad. So we really need to challenge our leaders, those leaders that are using that rhetoric, to be more responsible, and those on that side ought to call it out. Period. Point blank.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask some other stuff, but I think maybe we ought to leave it with that. Because I think that's about as well said as I've heard anybody say it. And I appreciate you saying it the way that you have, and because I think it's very, very important for people to hear that from leaders. I do think it is. I think you're exactly right, and I think Dr. King is exactly right. It is the silence of our friends that so often lead to the worst of things. That people who just don't stand up because it's not their place, or they're not into politics, or they don't get into talking about X, Y, or Z, and they allow the atrocities to occur. They allow people to be put inside these boxes and to be shamed and discriminated against and disenfranchised. And it's just a shame that we're taking a step back, or a lot of steps back, actually, that people feel this comfortable speaking in these terms now, from such long. I mean, we're talking about a guy who wants to be the governor and a guy who wants to be the lieutenant governor, saying these things, and that is a pretty awful thing. But Mayor, thank you so much for coming on
Yeah.
and spending time with
Thank
us,
you.
and and honestly being a voice of reason. We really do appreciate it. And we're going to get you back on, and we'll talk about some of the things we talked about earlier. So we'll see you again here in a couple of weeks, I'm sure, and get you back in here and do this and talk about Jackson Hospital and where that stands, and some of the other things that are taking place in Montgomery, and talk about maybe some economic development news as well. So let's do all that.
Hey, Josh, I look forward to it. Thanks, you and David, for having me on. Thanks to you guys for all the work you do as
Awesome.
well.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right.
you. As
Take
Mayor
care.
Steven Reed, we're going to slide out. We'll come back in just a minute. It's Alabama Politics This Week. We're back in a moment.